Section 18, Estimating Value. Defining price, cost, and value. Price is what you pay for something. The cost is what it costs to create that item or property. Value is what you're able to sell it for on the open market. Characteristics of value can be remembered by the acronym DUST: demand, utility, scarcity, and transferability. Principles of value include anticipation of certain events, change that can become physical or economical, competition for clients and customers, conformity of properties in a neighborhood, and contribution to the property's value for any individual improvement. You have three different approaches to valuing and appraising property: sales comparison, income approach, and cost appreciation. Sales comparison is used for vacant lots and single-family dwellings. Income approach is used for income-producing properties, and cost appreciation is used for new houses and to cross-check other approaches, as well as special purchase properties. Adjustments for differences. You have transactional differences and property differences. Transactional differences is a change in market conditions since the date of the sale. Prices could have gone up or could have gone down. Property differences is the location, square footage, and so forth. Determining price per square foot, you need to calculate the price per square foot by dividing the cost of the home by the total cooled and heated square footage of the house. The income approach, sometimes referred to as the income capitalization approach, is a type of real estate appraisal method that allows investors to estimate the value of property based on the income that the property generates. A knowledgeable purchaser will pay no more for a property than the cost of acquiring a similar site and constructing an acceptable substitute structure. That's called the principle of substitution. The maximum value can be measured by determining the cost to acquire an equivalent site and to reproduce the structure as if new and subtract for depreciation. That's how they come up with the cost approach. The age-life method. So, the majority of appraisers take into account the observed condition of a subject property. Based on the ratio of the property's effective age, which is the age that's indicated by the condition and utility of the structure, to its economic life, which is the total years a structure is profitably useful. Types of depreciation. Physical deterioration. That's the loss in value due to ordinary wear and tear. It's caused by use, lack of maintenance, and exposure to elements. Functional obsolescence is lost due to operational inadequacies, poor design, or changing taste. Over-improvement is also a functional obsolescence. External obsolescence is a loss in value due to something outside the property lines. Okay, caveat, land's not depreciable. Okay, whether we're doing it this way, the age life method, or whether it has to be depreciation because of the IRS. Land is not depreciable. So you have to estimate the land value, or they give it to you, whichever way it's doing, and add the land value to arrive at the final value. Now I know that sounded like a bowl of nuts, so let me put it into like a question thing. If they give you a problem that says the value, the market value of the property is $500,000, 20% of it is land value, what's the depreciation, blah, blah, blah. You're only going to depreciate 80% of the property value because you can't depreciate the land, so you got to take the 20% out. Do your depreciation, do all your math, come up with your answer, and then add that 20% for land, whatever that dollar amount is, back into it, and then you got your total depreciated value of the property. The appraiser's reconciliation of the comparables. Each comp's sales price is adjusted for differences between the comp compared with the subject. You never, ever, ever, ever adjust the subject.
Each comp is rated in terms of its similarity to the subject property. Rating is reflected in giving weight to each comparable. The comp that's closest to the subject property gets a higher weighted value, and so on. The weighed comps determine the indicative value using the sales comparison approach, and this determines the final value. The principle of supply and demand dictates that prices will rise when demand is high relative to supply, and prices will fall when supply is high relative to demand.
Buyer's market and seller's market. A buyer's market occurs when the supply exceeds the demand. In a buyer's market, real estate prices decrease and homes linger on the market longer. So sellers must compete in order to attract buyers. Typically, sellers will drop their asking prices to gain an advantage in the market.
A CMA, that's a comparative market analysis. It typically presents information concerning three major categories of properties: recently sold, currently on the market, and recently expired listings. Common elements of comparison is important. It's very important that all properties used in CMA be similar to the subject in size, age, amenities, and location. What is market value? It's the most probable price which a property should bring in a competitive and open market under all conditions requisite to a fair sale. It assumes the buyer and seller are each acting prudently and knowledgeably, and that the price is not affected by undue stimulus. Assumptions in market value is that value applies to a specific date when the title is transferred. Buyer and seller are typically motivated. Both parties are well informed or well advised, acting in their own best interest. A reasonable time is allowed on the open market. Payment is made in cash or U.S. dollars in comparable financial arrangements, and price is not affected by special financing or seller concessions. When you're making adjustment for differences, if you'll remember CBS and CIA, it will help you know which direction you're adjusting. So if the comp is better, you're going to subtract. If the comp is inferior, meaning it has less than, you're going to add. Remember, we always adjust the comp, never the subject. BPO, that's a broker's price opinion. They may be used in non-federally related transactions such as home equity lines of credit, refinancing, portfolio management, loss mitigation, and collections. A broker's price opinion is not an appraisal, but it is more than a comparative market analysis. It's a more deeper analysis on the property. Purpose and use of appraisals: they're to develop an opinion of value for real property, the market value. They're required from lending institutions for financing or buyer for validation of price that they have agreed to pay for the property. Appraisal regulation: the Financial Institutions Reform, Recovery, and Enforcement Act, acronym FOREA. The Appraisal Foundation has a qualifications board and a practice board. The state certified appraisers are residential or general. What is USPAP? It's the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, a set of guidelines for appraisal services. It requires objective and impartial appraisals, establishes record-keeping requirements, creates confidential appraiser-client relationship, and it is unethical. Remember this, it's unethical for an appraiser to accept compensation based on value.
CMA is a value range prepared for buyers and sellers. A BPO is an official, not appraisal, can't call it an appraisal, value. Foreclosures, relocation companies, they're the ones that usually want these. Appraisal is an official value for a set time and date.